So sorry about that. I think I failed to hit the run button when the call came back. But Miss Tom has now, she's a lovely person on the face of it. What she's confirmed is that my wife has no evil behaviours or no grounds for divorce that they want to make plain to me. Yeah. And that issue, she is saying, is dead in the water, because everybody has the right to desert their husband. They've got the right to walk out and leave without any justification. There were 4 grounds for divorce when I talked to the Citizens Advice Bureau. My wife has now fulfilled all of them. I do not want to persecute her. I do not want her to get more legal fees. I do not want her to have to pay £600 a month, which is almost all her earning capacity, yeah, unless she's been defrauding me in that respect. And she has been defrauding me, because she sectors the money in the last period of our life together, which is 18 months beyond the separation date that they're telling us is on the official documents in this law case now, that she has been putting into our joint account a fraction of her earning power from the company that was Plexus at first, and then from her brother who pays her as an employee. They've changed the story and they have made her self-employed for reputational reasons. They have crashed the computer that I lent her to run her business from her new home, and I have no right to know how much expense she incurs at that new home keeping my one child. As the children get older than the state-funded child allowance, she loses interest in keeping the family together, and that's the law in Scotland, is that you can do that if you wish to, and you can take, and what the solicitor is saying now is that they will need proof that I owned my home when I met my wife. Yeah, and I've given them all of that. I've given them the documents. I've given them the documents for the sale of the property that I owned entirely in Leighton Buzzard, and I will not get the chance to talk about this on Friday, because what they do is they cover it up with the legal jargon. But I'm just going to tell the whole story as it is, and they are going to take the reputational fall for that. And because of my access to the God's justice system, I don't know why I've been given that, presumably because I'm such a rare species as being an honest and outspoken man, yeah, on behalf of society and freedom. Yeah, I believe that the gods are inspired by that, and I think it's really dangerous to step in front of it and say, we want to take half of what you have created for your family and as a legacy for your children from you, and we want to pay for the overdraft that we have created since I deserted you from your half of the joint savings that were put together almost entirely by your 6-figure salary. Yeah, and everything that you're doing in the moral sector, I'm prepared to take a risk with that. Patricia Tom has confirmed that she is a non-limited company. Yeah, I will not persecute her, because I know that she's under the orders of the government. That's the government in Westminster, the government in Holyrood, and she's also under the orders of the monarchy. So why should a loyal Canadian citizen take the risk of talking openly about freedom for the people and the inspiring people that are trying to get freedom for all of the people? That has been a myth since the Gettysburg Cull, the Cull at the Somme, the Cull in the Napoleonic conflict, and everything is ended by the gods on the Eastern Front. That's the Moscow battles and the massacres that they have at St. Petersburg, now Leningrad, and Lenin is a full member of this team. He's gifted everything that freedom should deprive him of because of his genocidal role as a pan-continental leader trained in England. And the reason I'm doing this is because you do not get the chance to talk in court. Everybody is processed into it like sheep. They get 2 or 3 minutes of looking at bits of paper off the end of their specs, yeah, and what all they do is they just do the rubber stamp job. And that's what my wife's solicitor is telling me will be done to me, to dispossess me of this. The running costs here, I've run it since June the 4th, which is the real desertion date for my wife, and I've run it since June the 4th on the, I think it was £1,500 was left in our joint account, which is now left. I'm paying for all the house insurance, I'm paying to keep the car on the road. She's chosen to take the car off the road and to hire cars whenever any of my children need to be ferried up and down from the university they are now being robbed by. Yeah. And I am not going to relent. I'm going to keep telling the story and explaining it to all of the people of Scotland who are victims of this. The toxic debt pool that I told you about in the banking sector is hundreds of trillions, and we're not allowed to go a few pounds in debt. And what I referred to in my that last discussion with Miss Tom was her letter to me just saying, let him live alone for a time without any income. When I looked at the grounds for divorce in Scotland, that was called financial desertion of your loyal partner, and that was grounds for me to divorce her. She's driving my children into poverty, and she's taken the toxic debt pool that the government have created for my children, and she's paying for it from my divorce separation money. Yeah, there is the rough justice that Scottish law presents, and it's run by Prince Charles and the monarchy. And all of the closure of the rural law courts is going under their blind eyes with their fingers in their ears, because they think that their little bit of fraud is defensible, and I'm going to bring it down. Okay, there's no music in this one, but this is a joke about the female genitalia, and it's shared by the world leaders, and it is absolutely tragic that, you know, the world's children are still being abused, but we cannot smack them now. And the only person in my household who's ever smacked my children are my wife. And the last time we had to get someone in to repair the sink that was leaking, she did confess to the person who is at the fishing club where we've had all of those deaths that she chucked a carving knife into that sink because she went ballistic. Because I'm logical, I'm clear cut, I explain things explicitly. She does not like to have the serious fraud involving her brother and her boyfriend and their massive capital assets that they have stolen from the dentistry profession and the young children that take on the degrees in dentistry. Yeah, he's a friend of the makers of the Lord of the Rings film, and he's a homosexual, and he's incapable of siring his own children unless he uses Elton John's methods. And that means that he has access to my children, and I'm not allowed to know where they live. Yeah, and all of it is going to be explained with pictures on my website unless they jail me. And if they martyr me, then I reckon it may be the end of the world. Yeah, because everything that's happening with the gusts, the lightning storms and the people in the ITU means that when I reveal it, it is really insensitive of the fraud perpetrators not to pay attention to what I'm saying. Yeah, we just had the Cambridge University representatives whose husband was in the ITU really recently when I released the videos on the no bombing zone in Cambridge and Oxford, and before I learned about the skulls and Yale and the leading banks in America that take us to war again and again and again. But I'd better not talk about the female genitalia, because I got fined £300 for using the F word in the pub when my wife's letter came through saying we're going to take half of your belongings from you, but we still do not have a rational clause or grounds for the divorce. Okay? And this is run as a scam by the owners of the world, and that is the Holy Lands that they have brutalized perpetually since Richard the Lionheart went there. And the Lionheart jokes and the Jewish links are covered now by the Ethiopia genocide and the Lion of Judah story that becomes Gabriel Haile Selassie, the winner of the 10,000 metres at the Olympics. And Mary Peters is in the Olympic fraud story, and she lived as an innocent woman in my hometown in Kelso. And I can show you the house. I have no idea whether or not she owned it or she was in toxic debt as an amateur Olympian. But she's now on the board of the Olympics profiteering panel. Mary Peters in the decathlon sector. Everybody's at the trough. And I did not dare ask Miss Tom if she is a British citizen, enforcing British law on behalf of the G8 leaders and asset stripping everything that the free world could have. The mention of the fanny word is a really desperately sad thing for a freedom fighter to do, but that is the joke about world ownership. It's about the pesos, and everything relates to all of the frauds that they have created, and the links to all of the kosher butchery jokes and all of the jokes about society being dismembered by bureaucracy and the law enforcement. It is tragically accurate, and that is why I believe that the gods are going ballistic as I reveal it. Okay? I will not play you any music. It's quite saddening to see that this is how your loyal wife treats you, just because her capital commitments, and that chipping Norton the stones thing about, you know, and let me find the song that I found the other day, All Around My Heart. It's about this process and sending your husband to his death in a campaign overseas, so that all of the widows have to take their pick from the men in the pinstripe suits and their assistants in the judiciary or in the solicitor sector. That is the war dead, and that is my campaign in a nutshell. That's all around my hat. I wear the green willow. It's a joke shared by Morris dancers, kilted pipers everywhere, like the joke about the barren rocks of Aden and the killing of the ordinary working man by the world's elites and their solicitors. Right then. And this is my wife's taste in music. No. Rothschild Yellow. Like my wife's shoes when I met her. But my wife is relatively decent. She has flat shoes. She has no high heels. She is not in the prostitution sector, or she was not when I met her. So, this is the joke about the war dead from the rural community.
For a 12-month and a day, and if anyone should ask me the reason why I'm wearing it, it's all for my true love. All around my hat I will wear the green. sword for my true love, who's far, far away. Where the will whimper and pain will fall, nothing have I gained.
So there we are, fidelity and a laugh at the war dead. They are far, far away. They could be in Aden, they could be in Flodden, they could be in Culloden. Those are jokes about culling the gods in the skies. That is the cull of Odin. And the Norse gods are a joke about the house that I live in. This was named Valhalla by the team that live in this district. The teams that have Asset Stripped, Hearts Football Club, Rangers Football Club, and everything that we could have owned on the River Tweed, and all of it is done by cheap shop scamsters that run the draft board and that write songs like that, and the poetry that I've got on that legacy of my wife's taking over of my liberal and happy home that does not have any need to censor anything until I become a fraud researcher, and I become aware of everything that society is doing to its children. I hope that you can find the time to come to Jedburgh Sheriff Court on Friday. This is a show trial now, and I intend to get justice for my boys. I have no access to them. I'm not allowed to know where they live. I cannot forward their mail that still comes here to the house that I insure for the woman that thinks this is hilarious, and the chipping Norton stones that oblige you to be a cheap shot traitor to your husband. If she comes back peacefully, I will take her back into my house. But she needs to acknowledge that everything that I am doing is on behalf of our society and our world, and that I will not be robbed readily. Anyway, I'm going to go for a run because I'm physically fit. I do not live my life based on a series of dietary regimes that mean that I'm depressed and then I'm happy again whenever I think up something else that can make it look as if I've spent my life being persecuted by my innocent husband, who she married for his sense of humour. I'm having a ball here, and I'm going to tear them to pieces.